Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Trilbee's Top 5. Every 5 episodes of Trilbee Gaming will consist of a list related to gaming, but what shall I count down today? Well, if you watched my last episode, episode 4, Choose Your Side, which you should have done because you're a good viewer, you'll recall that the first game I ever played was Sonic the Hedgehog on the SEGA Genesis, so I figure it's fitting that I talk about the infamous SEGA mascot. Sonic is responsible for some of the best and worst games of all time, and if you look at his games over the past 10 to 15 years, it's kind of obvious to see why. Sonic has one unique gameplay element. He's fast. He's really fast. He's really fucking fast. The best Sonic games are the ones that have used this one element. The weaker games are the ones that have added pointless gimmicks. The Sonic formula is not broken, but over the years, Sonic Team have added pointless gimmicks to their games, and some of them have worked okay, and some of them have not. Today, we're going to be counting down the worst gimmicks that Sonic Team has come up with for their flagship franchise. Just to narrow the list down, we're talking about the gimmicks in the main series. Party game spin-offs are gimmicks unto themselves and don't qualify for the list. Now, let the countdown begin. Number 5. The Werehog from Sonic Unleashed. I know what you're thinking, what the hell, only number 5? Well, to that I say, this is my list and not yours. 2008 Sonic Unleashed is split up into 2 gameplay mechanics. There's playing as Sonic during the daytime in the best 3D stages since Sonic Adventure 2, and then there's the nighttime stages where Sonic turns into a Werehog. In the Wii version, its gameplay harkens back to the PlayStation 1 Crash Bandicoot games, whereas in the HD console versions, the gameplay is more like God of War. The biggest problem with the Werehog is that it takes away the speed that made Sonic so great. Things slow down considerably, and instead of racing through environments, you're beating up dark creatures. The reason this is number 5 and not higher is because they're not that bad. The combat can be rather satisfying, the level design is okay I guess, and the bosses are interesting in their strategies. However, it's hard to play these levels and not find them out of place. They're not broken, nor are they particularly bad. They're just not needed, especially since the daytime stages were so phenomenal. Number 4. Silver the Hedgehog from Sonic the Hedgehog 06. It's 2006, and Sonic the Hedgehog is making his debut onto next-gen consoles, surely with the added processing power, a big budget, and yeah, you know where this joke is going, the game is a dud. In the game you get to play as 3 hedgehogs. There's Sonic of course, there's Shadow, and there's Silver. Sonic and Shadow handle similarly. They run fast, they grind on stuff, and run fast. So what can Silver do? Use telekinesis. That sounds pretty cool, right? So how's the end result? A broken mess. The concept of having a character with the ability to move objects and throw them at enemies is actually a good one, and it could have worked if it was in any other game. Silver controls like a tank, a really slow tank. The physics engine that is essential to this mechanic's success is broken, glitchy, and it's just not very fun. If you can get the game to work, there are a few good moments, but you'll be constantly fighting the game the whole way. It could have worked, but the execution just wasn't there.
But that's impossible!
Number 3. guns and vehicles from Shadow the Hedgehog. Okay, I know this is a Shadow gimmick and not a Sonic one, but since Shadow is a copy of Sonic, I think it counts. In this game you are playing as the ultimate life form, a hedgehog who can run at the speed of sound, freeze and slow down time, fire energy blasts from his hands, and create huge energy waves that can decimate entire armies. So why the hell does he need a gun? Honestly, this gimmick is more along the lines of what the hell were they thinking, as opposed to this is unplayable. Like I said, Shadow can already run super fast. Why slow down his progress by making him hop into a vehicle? The reason this is number 3 on the list is for 2 reasons. 1, the gunplay and use of vehicles is actually optional. Sure, you can find weapons around the levels, but you don't have to use them. And 2, if you do use them and you've mastered the controls, then you can actually rack up some high scores, and their inclusions can make game flow satisfying. But it all boils down to its conclusion. Why? To make Shadow look like a badass? Dude, he skates at the speed of sound and can do all kinds of impressive stunts and super moves. He's already a bit of a badass. Number 2. The Sword from Sonic and the Black Knight. Okay, while this is probably the worst execution of any of the gimmicks on this list, the reason it's only number 2 is because, well, Sonic with a sword actually shows promise, and it could work well from a gameplay perspective. However, Sonic and the Black Knight is the worst Sonic game that I have ever played. Where do I begin? The game is only an hour long. No joke. I paid $39.99 for this game and I only got an hour's worth of content. Drab environments, a horrible script, the list goes on and on. But the biggest failing of Sonic and the Black Knight is its sword mechanic. It is quite literally a waggle fest. For the entire hour of the game, all you do is swing the Wiimote to swing your sword, and that is it.
This is it. Literally, this is it. This is all that Sonic and the Black Knight has to offer. It's this for an hour. I paid $39.99 for this. This is not fun. My hand fucking hurts!
Yeah, you can equip bonuses to give your sword extra powers, but you can attach whatever the hell you like to your character. It doesn't change a damn thing. The swordplay doesn't flow with the level design at all. Whenever you swing, Sonic stops dead in his tracks. Imagine if you were playing a classic 2D Sonic game, and every time you met an enemy, you had to stop for 5 seconds and defeat it before moving on. It's slow as hell, and slow is not a word I want to associate with a Sonic game. While the team-based mechanic in Sonic Heroes and the use of guns in Shadow the Hedgehog might not have been great, they at least flowed with the overall level design, and if you were skilled enough then you could complete the levels without having to utilize the mechanic. Here, the sword is mandatory. The most fun you can have with this game is when you play as Knuckles and you can fly over the opponent. That speaks volumes. This is a prime example of why you should never run with scissors. It just ends badly. And the number 1 worst Sonic gimmick is Big the Cat from Sonic Adventure. Okay, here's a quick history lesson. While Sonic did have 1 or 2 attempts at 3D gameplay before Sonic Adventure on the Dreamcast, this was his first proper mainstream attempt. However, SEGA discovered something, and this is the root of all of Sonic's gimmicks over the past decade. In order to create a 3D Sonic game that had fast-paced levels, they needed to be huge levels in order to give the game decent length. and this is why Sonic has had gimmicks attached to his games. This is why there are 2 gameplay types in Sonic Unleashed, why you have to play through all of the levels 4 times in Sonic Heroes, and of course why there are 6 playable characters playing through similar levels in Sonic Adventure. Sonic and Tails are basically about speed, Knuckles is treasure hunting, Amy is trying to outrun a robot, and Gamma is a robot killing other robots. While not all of them are what you'd expect to see in a Sonic game which relies on speed and reaction times, they all have one thing in common: they are fun. What isn't fun, however, is fishing. There are 3 big reasons as to why this is at the top of the list. 1. Fishing is quite possibly the exact opposite of fast-moving platformer. 2. The fishing is no fun. And 3. This is the only Sonic gimmick that has caused me physical pain. When I first played this game on my Dreamcast over a decade ago, I got frustrated with these segments. In order to reel in the fish, you had to spin the analog stick really fast. I got frustrated with the game and I used my palm to spin the stick. I caught the frog, but when I looked at my hand after the level was finished, I had a huge red blister on my palm, and yes, there was blood. So think of this as my personal vengeance against one of the very few games that has caused me actual physical pain. But besides that, the fishing just doesn't belong here. To fish, you have to stand still for most of the level. What happened to racing through loops or ploughing through enemies at supersonic speeds? If I want to play a fishing game, I would play an actual fishing game. The fishing is just dull, tedious, and need I remind you, caused me physical pain and made blood come out of my hand. Some may say that that was my fault, but no, Big the Cat's fishing levels made me do it. Okay, maybe some of you enjoyed the fishing segments, that's fair enough, but honestly, whether you enjoyed them or not, they do not belong in a Sonic game. The Werehog was more appropriate than a cat fishing for his pet frog. And for all of these reasons and more, it is the worst Sonic gimmick ever.
Oh, now what am I gonna do?